Hello again. Now, the Eastern Cape Education Department is facing a critical shortage of teachers. With over 5,000 schools, a report by the Portfolio Committee in the province shows nearly 2,000 vacant teaching posts. 380 schools have no principals and 39 have no deputy principals. The committee has now instructed the department to come up with a detailed plan to reverse this trend. Ceduma Mboxela is speaking on behalf of the Eastern Cape Education Department, joining us now from East London. Monty, good afternoon. Welcome to Today on eNCA. So is there a plan to address this big shortage of teachers in your province?
Thank you very much, Braden, and good afternoon to eNCA viewers. Maybe I would request you to allow me an opportunity to just make a correction. The statement that which has given birth to this discussion is a statement of a member of the standing committee, not necessarily the standing committee of the provincial legislature. It's just a member statement. And secondly, in this year of 2023, there are 121 deputy positions that were advertised, and ultimately they were filled, and the 360 principals that were also appointed, 441 HODs that were also appointed in this year. And out of that, we've got a number of 18 posts that were put aside to make sure that if there is a growth that is needed within the system, such as taking place. The only thing that we can also raise is that in terms of what is called a post-provision norms, as the department, we don't have a crisis. And I can also say that we don't have schools that don't have principals and deputy principals. Because whenever there's one teacher that moves in a school, there's an acting that gets to be effected immediately. And from where we seated, as the department, the system is gelling very well, and the number of positions that are yet to be advertised, there are 336, and already HR has defined a process for that, and we are knowing that by the end of this year, such positions are going to be filled. So the members,
Ms. Mboxela, yeah, you've answered, giving us a lot of numbers. I just want to take it part by part. Let's begin here. I said in my intro, 380 schools have no principals. You say that is not the case because there are acting principals. Now, you have an acting principal. They are not permanent principals. So how many schools have no principals?
The number of principals that needs to be appointed, which is going to be appointed, by the way, in this year, based on the advertisement that is going to take place, is 336. That's the number that is with us as the department.
So 336 schools. Sorry to come in there. 336 schools, as we see it, have no principals, and you don't see a crisis?
No, I'm not saying that in terms of how you think it is not a crisis. It can be a crisis if you interpret it in that way. But from where we're seated, there's work that is taking place in those schools because they're acting principals. And also there's a plan that has been put up for, which also that plan is canvassed with the teacher unions. And from where we're seated, it is just a norm in any system of government, and also even in the private sector, that when there's one individual that is moving, immediately you put an acting person. The only thing that perhaps we can be discussing is how far do we take that process at the department. And of course, I've made an indication that already there is a process that has been discussed. And last week, the MEC did make an indication that there are almost like 379 posts that are going to be advertised. Of course, looking at also a number of schools that which need people with specialized needs, because in our own system, we have made inclusive education a critical point, and in the advertisement that is going to take place in this last quarter of the year, such is going to be effected.
Yeah, and how many teaching posts sit today vacant?
The number that we have is 336.
So that number, the number that I gave, that has come out of that report from the Eastern Cape Education, the Portfolio Committee, was 1,974. You dispute that number?
I vehemently dispute that number. It's a misleading statement, and I did make an indication that was an advertisement that was done by the department in this year. And also in this last quarter, there is also a number of posts that are also based in schools that is going to be advertised. And also, I must make an indication that as part of supporting our schools, we've got 100 young people that were contracted 2 weeks back to go in all our schools, and there will be for a period of 2 years. So from where we're seated, we don't see an administrative crisis, and from where we're seated, we don't see a system that is going to crash because of a sad shortage of teachers.
So you don't have 2,000 vacant teaching posts. You have 300.
We don't have that. Okay. We don't have that in the province.
Yeah. So what kind of special needs? You said you've also got special needs to address special needs. What kind of special needs are these?
For an example, the deaf community, that's one. We've got learners that needs to be taken care of who are deaf, for an example, in a school called Efata, and also the learners with autism, and also the therapists that we need, because in order for us to place one learner in a particular school, there's a therapy report that we need. So part of what we are doing as a department is to employ such individuals so that we don't depend to external support from the Department of Health or Department of Social Development. There are people that are going to have them internally in the department, so that those learners that are coming from the different special needs, they are able to be catered for within the department to augment already the work that is existing, which is done by other sector departments.
Okay, you don't do the recruitment yourself as a spokesperson of the department, but I need to ask you, how confident are you managed to fill all these vacancies that you've outlined to us? The numbers are not as high as earlier reported and as what we've been reporting here and as what I said in my intro to you. How confident are you that you'll be able to address this effectively so that come the new academic year in 2024, you don't have any teaching posts that are vacant and you have full-time principals, not acting principals in every school?
I would say, but then the agility of the HOD, which has just been appointed for the department, and the commitment that we see to our senior managers, and also the work that we see being done by the Directorate of HR, it does indicate that indeed this is something that we can overcome. And when you look at the number, it's not a far-fetched number. And I can say that in August, the sector starts a process of defining post-provision norms. So this is part of what is going to be in the discussion basket, which is going to be between the department and the unions. From where we're seated, we don't really see a problem because, you know what, in the Eastern Cape, we've got schools that we have closed because of rationalization, and those schools would have been closed with teachers. So it is going to be a matter of an agreement and a discussion between the teacher unions and the department to say, how do we move this teacher that was in school A to another school, so that you don't necessarily depend in people that are totally new for them to be in the department. From where we're seated, we don't say crisis. It's a misleading statement from that particular member of the Standing Committee.
Thank you very much for your time this afternoon on Today. Ceduma Mboxela speaking on behalf of the Eastern Cape Education Department.